If you were to ask me about the best episodes of TV I've ever seen, I'm sure I know what direction you'd think I'd be going. You'd expect mentions of Breaking Bad, The Wire, Game of Thrones, True Detective, and the list goes on. But I'm here to say the most perfect episode I've seen is not in any of these shows. It's in Bob's Burgers. More specifically, the episode goes by the name of The Plight Before Christmas. And as you can probably tell, it's a Christmas episode, which is why I thought of posting this video now. Before I go into why, I need to caution you. If you have not seen Bob's Burgers, I ask you to stop this video. You only get the chance to see something for the first time once, and this really is a perfect episode of TV, and the first time you see it should not be ruined by this video. This episode is in season 13, and I think it's way better if you start the show from the beginning, so that you get to know each character and witness their growth over the 13 seasons before you see this episode, instead of just having me explain it here and robbing yourself of the experience. Of course, I will try my best during this video to give all the context that's needed, but you'd still be robbing yourself. Now, before I go on, I think there's an important point that has to be brought up. How can an episode of a show as silly as Bob's Burgers not only stand up to the likes of Breaking Bad, Game of Thrones, or The Wire, but be even better? Let's get into it. From my understanding, there's two types of shows out there: a serial show and episodic shows. A serial show runs like Breaking Bad, Daredevil, and pretty much every HBO show. Every episode is clearly building to something bigger, so from the first episode to the last, every episode is closely connected. While an episodic show runs like Friends, The Simpsons, pretty much all sitcoms and crime shows. Every episode is supposed to stand by itself, and you can jump in any season and any episode and it should work just fine. It should also be noted that good serial shows also usually have episodes with a beginning, middle, and an end, so you should be able to watch one and understand it by itself, just as an episode from an episodic show might connect to a previous episode from time to time when the writers feel it necessary to make a story with previous characters or plot lines, etc. Therefore, it's definitely a spectrum that's played with. But even though there is a spectrum, you're still left with two kinds of shows that each are split into episodes with very different goals in mind. The serials have the setting, characters, plans, and plot lines ready and know where they're headed. At least to some degree, because of the development of the episodes before. The episodes usually run longer, and it's almost like each episode is like a scene in a really long movie. They don't really work in a vacuum. Episodic shows aren't like that. They have the same set of characters, same setting for the 200th time, and constantly have to come up with new ideas, because a new season is just around the corner. The episodes in an episodic show run shorter, usually around half the time of an episode in a serial show. While serial shows have their own set of challenges, each season in an episodic show usually comes with 20 to 25 episodes, which is a lot more than you typically get in a serial show. This means the writer has to come up with a complete story in a shorter amount of time, which is probably the biggest challenge any writer can get. Even so, these shows often get a bad rep. They either end up being criticized as quantity over quality because of the sheer amounts of episodes, or an incredible episode shows up, but it still disappears in the midst because that one episode will have to go up against the overall impression people have of the show. No matter what, it's a lose-lose. But a writing challenge is not something that the writers of Bob's Burgers shies away from. You can see this by even just looking at their intro. They could have had any intro they wanted, but they have one where they have to come up with two unique, good word plays for every single intro. The puns of the exterminator car and the new store next door. And when that's done well, which is in most episodes, they earn 2 laughs before the show is even started. So while I am aware that there are episodic shows out there that over time have turned into quantity over quality, there are writers out there like Lauren Bouchard, Jim Dotterive, and Kelvin Yu skilled enough to not only keep the stories consistently strong, but in cases like this, have Bob Burgers only improve over time. So when I see an episode with a quality this high that manages to move me, I do feel the need to talk about it as much as I would about an episode such as Ozymandias or The Red Wedding. When I think of a truly flawless and perfect episode of a show, I go back to the main point of the show. What is it really trying to do? I think the most fair and correct view of what Bob's Burgers is trying to do is just to show how a relatable and wholesome family of wacky characters make it through day to day. But the main part of why I think this episode is utterly perfect is because every single character in the family and their respective unique traits are used to push the plot and theme forward in a way only they could. It all came together in such a way that by the end I was in awe. Whether we're talking about a serial or an episodic show, I've never before seen everything in an episode linked together so perfectly to tell such a good story in this short amount of time. With all that in mind, let's get into it. The Plight for Christmas starts like most other Bob's Burgers episodes do, with the family sitting in the burger place that Bob and his family run. It's about 5 in the evening, and they're getting ready to go out. The two oldest kids, Tina and Jean, both have performances at the very same time. So the parents, Bob and Linda, will each go with one of them, so each kid gets to perform for at least one parent. It's not perfect, but Bob and Linda are trying their best, and it seems like they've found an acceptable middle ground. Then their third and youngest child, Louise, comes in and reminds them that she also has to show at the very same time. One of the kids will have to miss having their parents see their performance, and therefore will feel left out and abandoned. Linda loves her kids dearly. She's also the biggest fan of the kids' different activities and therefore really wants to catch all the shows. So she starts wailing and crying because she feels like she's failing as a parent.
What time does everyone's thing start?
6.
Ah!
Lynn, easy. So someone's gonna call the police. Hi, she's happy. She's good.
This is one of the rare times Louise has something she wants to present to her parents, because her older siblings are way more into these social, artistic endeavors, while she's happier just making plans for clever deeds in the background. So this is something kinda new, making it even worse for Linda that she's missing it. Louise tries to fix this, saying it's okay that she's missing her show, because it's just another one of her pranks. She says that she submits a poem every year to the holiday poetry contest at the library, in the hopes of getting chosen so she can read a poem with the word poop in it, and get it hung on the walls of the library. It's all just a hilarious prank. Therefore, it's fine that the parents are missing it. Linda is still very much unhappy that this is how it's going to go, but she's going on with the plans they made. But why is this not just a good first act, but a first act to a flawless episode? Because, going back to what I talked about before, this is absolutely a perfect example of what the show is about. The family has 2 parents and 3 kids. Not only will Linda and Bob have to miss one of the kids' shows, but one of their kids will feel left out. In 12 seasons, we've never before seen the parents have to deal with having to choose one kid over the other. It's a perfect plot to show a difficult family situation, because it's clear in this episode that Bob and Linda are very good parents and they try their hardest, but sometimes they get thrown problems from different directions. In this case, it's the town's after-school activities and their scheduling, and how they're often not coordinated at all, and it's the parents that get stuck with having to deal with all of it. Something many parents of a big active family have probably felt before. So the audience get to watch this fun and wacky family have to deal with this very relatable problem in a realistic way. Before we get into talking about the characters, we have to understand one of the main themes of Bob's Burgers. Bob's dad had a diner that Bob helped run. It didn't last long, because when Bob would try to show his artistic impulses through coming up with new recipes and food puns, his dad would shut it down right away. So he stopped working with his dad as soon as he could and left. Then he met Linda, and eventually they opened a new restaurant. Linda also helps him run the restaurant with close to no complaints, and also put the kids to help to make things work out. To me, this seems like a very fundamental theme of the show that the writers really care deeply about. Support. Bob is very introverted, and he talks to his food and imitates the food talking back to him.
Hi, Turkey. Just me in here now. God, you're even more beautiful than you were 5 minutes ago.
Yeah, because you cook me perfectly and you're a great chef and a great father and also unconventionally handsome.
Thanks. You didn't have to say all that.
Linda is very extroverted, very loud, constantly singing off keys.
Stronger and gayer than ever. I just wrote a jingle for you.
She's pretty singy tonight.
Have weird sayings like,
My Jeannie Beanie. Aw, my teeny Tina. And my squeezy Louise.
even though they're very different, instead of trying to change each other, they both support and accept each other and bring out the best in one another. We see the same pattern also clearly with their kids, as they also have a lot of different and weird traits. Tina's main hobby is over-sexualizing every teenage boy she comes in contact with, and she's not afraid to share that with her family.
Mr. Frog told me I could be the new permanent soloist, but if I do the show tomorrow, no one will ever want to kiss me ever again.
Okay, first of all, people will want to kiss you again, Tina.
Really?
Yep.
Boys?
Yep.
What do they look like?
It's a hypothetical. It's...
Tan?
Yes, they're tan boys.
But not like that orangey self-tan.
Nope. Anyway.
Gene is the loudest member of the family, kinda gross as he eats everything he can put his hands on, even if it's rotten, dirty, or whatever else. And Louise is also a stone throw away from prison. She lays intricate mastermind plans to get her hands on candy, time away from school, money to get more candy, or some other childlike prize. There are a lot of weird traits in the family, but neither Bob nor Linda ever suppress this. Oftentimes, they even encourage it. When it comes to support, no one on the show is more supportive than Linda. Even so, she's still probably my least favorite member of the family. Mostly just because I think the show took the longest with nailing down her character. The 4 other characters I'd say were fully realized around season 3 or 4, but I don't think Linda really gets finished completely before around season 10. The main reason why is because of her expressive ways. She has a low sense of self-awareness, her emotions often make her spiral into strange plots, and it often happens that these plots have consequences that either Bob or the kids have to deal with, even though they didn't have anything to do with them to begin with. After season 10, this trait comes up less, and even when it does, she herself is often the one having to deal with the consequences. These consequences often also comes from a kind of kindness, which makes her a very endearing character. Loud, sometimes annoying maybe, but endearing. In the Plight Before Christmas, she drives Louise to her show, then goes with Tina to her play. When she gets there, she understands that the woman running Tina's play has way too much on her hands. So naturally, Linda steps in to make sure it all goes smoothly. She takes on the role as stagehand and gets the costumes ready for the kids, while trying to deal with the sadness that comes with leaving Louise behind. On top of all that, she also has to kind of protect Tina, because she has the star role in the play, and Linda thinks another girl is gunning for the chance to take her spot. Meanwhile, it's not looking any better for Gene. He shows up to a school music number, which was supposed to be his favorite teacher's musical debut, but when he gets there, he finds out that the teacher and coordinator of the musical show are at the hospital, and the substitute teacher has no clue about the music, the show, or anything else. To give some context, out of the 3 kids, Gene is the middle child, and probably the most irresponsible of the 3. He finds it hard to focus, and goes wherever his mind leads him. This often leads to him either screwing something up or forgetting what he was doing. Even so, he's always at the back of call of his sisters, and always a partner in their schemes and activities. But when it comes to either food, or especially music, this flips, and he becomes very focused, dedicated, and opinionated. The kids get to play the first part of the show, and it's an absolute mess. Gene loves to play. He cares about all the time his favorite teacher has put into it.
It's Miss Merkin's first ever original 6th grade holiday all xylophone musical spectacular. She says it's about love and loss and online shopping and the end of innocence. It's her greatest work.
And he also don't want the substitute teacher to burn for a mistake she has nothing to do with. He knows he has to do something.
But we can finish strong.
How?
I don't know. What would Ms. Merkin do?
I don't know.
Even with Linda's help, this is far from Tina's best play. But Tina's not focused on the play at all, because on their way from the house to the library, Tina tried to take Louise's folder to see her poem, but Louise refused. It was unusual. If it really was a poop prank, she would rather show it off than to hide it. At that point, Tina accepted it, but still mentioned that she thought Louise should try to write something serious. But Louise refused, and she even mocked the very idea of it. Now, Tina suddenly realizes that that's exactly what Louise has done. Louise has never tried to express herself maturely and sincerely from the heart before, and that's why she didn't let Tina see the folder. We also cut to Louise to see this is true. So Louise is doing something serious, and now the reason to miss her show isn't true anymore. The reason why this is a perfect plot for Tina is because this is always who she is. She's the oldest daughter, and she has really claimed the role that comes with it. She might be angry at times when the boys she likes don't reciprocate her attention, but when it comes to Jean and Louise, she's always there. She's not just a tremendously good person, but a really good older sister that always has her siblings back, to such a degree they often abuse it, like when...
Oh, it's Christmas time again.
Did you get presents for Mom and Dad?
I got Mom that hip-hop yoga video she wanted.
I went in on it. Tina, how much do I owe you? Just kidding, it's on you.
Great, that'll be from all of us. So what did we get Dad, Tina?
I didn't get him anything.
Oh, way to go, T. Gene and I are pulling our weight.
Yeah, Tina.
Sorry, it's just been a crazy season.
Oh, we can't put sorry under the tree, can we?
So in this episode, she's once again trying her best to help her sister as she's going through a tough time, doing something for the first time. But let's go back a second. Why is this happening? Why is Louise acting like this? Well, because this is how she's always acted. Even though she's a good person inside, she often puts up a tough exterior. It's probably just a way to feel that she can measure up to her older siblings, but instead she ends up running circles around not only them, but all of their friends too. Whenever anyone in the school needs something, they can trust that Louise knows exactly what to do. So when she sees the pressure she's putting on her parents, and the chance that her asking for space will take space from her other siblings, she prefers to take a step back, under-prioritize herself, and act like it's no big deal. This is also the first time she tries to be heartfelt and is embarrassed about these thoughts. So it's just easier not to do it. Act like a poop home on the library walls is all that she's after. So we cut from Tina's discovery to a short clip of Louise sitting on stage, trying to hide that she's a bit sad and scared. She's getting ready to read, but there's no one there to see her serious poem, so she's considering to stick to what is familiar and just read the poop poem instead. It doesn't help that the other poem submissions are also really good.
Thank you, Aaliyah. Amazing. Whew. Okay. Next up, Benjamin Brand.
Good luck following that. I'm kidding. You'll be great.
Bob gets called up by hysterical Linda, sharing Tina's realization. Linda's heartbroken that Louise is finally trying something new and sincere, and that there's no one there to support it. Bob shares how badly Gene's show is going, and then they have the idea that he should skip out and try to get to the library quickly, film Louise's poem with a camera he brought, and hopefully be back in time to catch the end of Gene's show. Before he gets to consider what's the best thing to do, a taxi shows up and he tries to catch it. Why is this a perfect Bob plot? Well, let's get into that. Bob is my favorite character in the show. He has a lot of characters gunning for that spot, Louise most of all, but he's still my personal favorite. He's the only dad I've seen in an animated show that's not either insane or dumb as rocks, and he's also a really good parent.
But if I tell you that I'm telling you another kid's secret, do you swear not to tell?
I think so, as long as it's not murder.
It's not.
Good.
Well, there's gonna be 45 minutes to spin the bottle at Jocelyn's party.
Okay.
But I got uninvited because now I'm mononucleosis, the face of anti-kissing.
Oh, that sounds bad, yeah. I know puberty positivity is important to you, and that's good, but if doing this play is making you say something you don't believe in, then maybe you shouldn't do it.
Even if I said I would?
Yeah, because whether you kiss anyone or not, you're in charge of your own mouth, who you kiss with it, and what you say with it. And Tina?
Are you gonna say you have to tell on Jocelyn's party?
No, I was going to ask you if you wanted me to get you a handful of ice cream.
Besides that, I think the main reason why I like him is because of how grounded and simple he is. After having grown up largely without a mother, and with a dad he often feuded with, he ended up with a simple life where he had simple goals. Aside from his family, he has a deep love of cooking, and all he really wants is to have a good day selling burgers with his family. This is rarely possible with all the hijinks the family gets into. A lot of the time we get crazy plots where Bob either has to get involved to either save the lives of his family members, save the plans they make from becoming dangerous, or just to support his family in a bunch of stuff he never asked for. This often gets him sweaty, hurt, tired, and on a rare occasion, glued to the toilet. But still, he does it all because he loves his family and wants them to express themselves in their own unique ways. Even so, it's a thankless job. Half the time, they either make fun of him or put him down, which is kind of a running joke in the show.
Look who got flour!
Mom!
My Jeannie Beanie! Aw, my teeny Tina, and my squeezy Louise.
Dad's back too.
Good to see you, man.
He never really stops it because he knows that behind the jokes and insults, there's a lot of love. Something that we also get to witness in a lot of the episodes. All of this is summed up very well in this episode. I should also mention how in a previous episode, Bob is tasked with filming all of the three kids' Mother's Day performances, but he fails in different ways. So I like how in this episode he's given the camera to try to rectify that. This is one of the many examples of it being an episodic show, but having certain aspects that carry over from one episode to another every now and then, to show strong continuity and character growth through callbacks. In this episode, Bob is, like usual, running from place to place trying to make all his family happy. He hails a cab, but finds out a bit too late that the cab driver had bad hearing and has been driving to the wrong place, so he has to get out and run. He also tried to jump over a fence to not have to run around the entire library to save time, but gets bitten by a dog. This all ends with him realizing he's at the wrong library and having to call Linda to let her and Tina know that he's not going to make it, and that he has to get back to Jean's show. While telling them all of this through whimpers, heavy breathing, and crying, he also scrubs his knees from falling on the ground. Meanwhile, back at the school, Jean is trying his best to save what's left of the show. He's running around taking pieces of the xylophone so that there's less things for the kids to mistakenly hit, so they can't play wrong and get confused. And Bob is finally back. He looks like a mess because of everything that happened, and the other parents make fun of him for it. Jean's show finally picks back up, and it sounds... It's not as good as the teacher's actual plans, but they still managed to make a beautiful rendition of the song, and the night is saved. We switch to see the star that Tina was dressed up as, dancing around the stage, and Louise getting ready to read the poem, only the star isn't Tina. It's the girl that wanted Tina's role, and Tina is nowhere to be seen. Where is she?
I love this next poem. Let's have a big hand for Louise Belcher.
What's Around the Tree by Louise Belcher. I can't see what's around the tree when I'm pawing through the presents, but when I sit back and get my present unwrapped, I look up and I see my parents. I see and smell my brother. That's clearly where the gas is. And I see my sister with something that looks like gingerbread on her glasses. And we don't have gingerbread, so this is odd. We made funny ornaments for the tree this year, and we made funny ornaments sitting here around the tree. So jolly. I didn't expect to feel this way. I was focusing on Santa. But the best presents are sitting here, and they aren't even wrapped up.
The poem tells the story about a kid seeing the true beauty of Christmas. Any consistent Bob's Burgers watcher would know how Louise normally acts in most of the other Christmas episodes. She's either trying to make sure she gets the best gifts, often childish and self-centered things, like her own mansion or something like that. But here she's gushing out about how the true gifts are the ones sitting around the tree, the one that would drop out of her own plate to support her sister instead, the one that would spend her night fixing a play she had no business helping with, the one that would have taken upon himself to fix the show even though he's just a kid, the one that would sweat, bleed, and cry for the chance to be able to film the poem. So that's where it all ends, with Bob watching Jean and Tina and Linda watching Louise recite her poem, thanks to Tina. That is a perfect TV episode. A story that's incredibly relatable with a wonderful message, perfectly showcasing what the show is about, while utilizing all 5 family members and the perfect representation of their characters, fully delivering on the comedy it's trying to live up to.
There goes the best damn substitute music teacher who knows nothing about music that I've ever seen.
And delivering a beautiful song to build up to the very end. And finally ending the plot with a heartfelt poem to highlight everything. Then finishing the episode on a clip of the family just being a family, being ornaments around the tree. I could cop out and say that this is without a doubt the best Christmas episode out there, but I'd be doing it a disservice. This is utter perfection, on a level I've never seen before.